This one was sent to me, and again, the key concept here is, what do we do if a broker can't get the borrow, or I can't get the borrow on that particular security or inventory? In this case, the commentary was around Kuwait, KWT, and so with that, I would say don't really sweat it. Don't sweat not getting the borrow. It's and I'm not trying to be flippant or anything. I'm just saying it's like not the end of the world, and I don't really, if you're relatively happy with TD Ameritrade, I wouldn't say that you need to go, move to a new broker just to get, figure out if you can get a borrow on Kuwait. So what I will say is, and sometimes regardless of the broker, the borrow can be difficult, or the cost of the borrow can be a challenge, and that's going to vary by broker, whether it's at Schwab or TD Ameritrade, which now is kind of one and the same because Schwab bought TD Ameritrade. But again, whether it's Interactive Brokers, Fidelity, et cetera, it is going to kind of vary. But again, I really wouldn't sweat that or really dig too deep into it. And I think the biggest thing is, if you can't get the borrow on Kuwait and you want to express that exposure, then I would look at I would be looking at proxies for that piece of inventory. So in this case, in this example of Kuwait, Keith has mentioned on the macro show Qatar, so QAT, and UAE, United Arab Emirates, as having similar signals and reflecting similar type of exposure, aka declining oil demand. So that's the big thing here. So if you can't get borrow on Kuwait, you really should, or you could, if you wish, you can go get and go look at UAE and or Qatar, QAT, and see where those stand. UAE in particular is on ETF Pro, so you'd have your trend range there in terms of where that might sit inside of that range. And then, we don't have Qatar on here, but my point is really the same, right? So the other thing too is you can use that expression or that signal on Kuwait as an opportunity or a signal from Keith that really, he's trying to express that declining demand in oil and the weakness in the signal, or that was a couple days ago in oil. So the example that I'm going to get into here is, you could also kind of go look at oil-related entities, right, or oil-related shorts, like XOP. He mentioned on the macro show as having a better signal than XLE and OIH. And in fact, OIH is bullish trend for whatever reason. And really, we don't really care. It's just the signal is the signal. So XOP, you certainly, he called it out on, I believe it was the 8th. Yep, it was on the 8th. And KM said on that morning macro show that he could potentially short XOP at the top end of the risk range, especially if oil got to the top end of its risk range as well. And again, just along these same lines, XOP was added to ETF Pro late afternoon around 3 p.m. on the 8th. So along with Kuwait, KWT. So those were both added to the short side inside of ETF Pro. So again, a really good example where you can kind of go about it and look for that. So Selt, if you don't mind pulling up Marina, if you don't mind pulling up slide 8 there. Yeah, awesome. And so, yes, this is a good example. You can throw it on the board. Awesome. This is a good example, right? So I wanted to pull up XOP just to reflect. Again, it's not really about the returns. It's more about the expression of if KWT was hard to borrow, you can go pick up XOP, and you would see that in that morning. Kind of going. So this was like 10 a.m. So it opened basically up here. What do I need to do here? You hit that, and it opened up here. So it opened up. I can't draw it. Opened up there. All right. So the sell signal for Kuwait came in at 10:07. So if you kind of, let's just say you went about it and you were like, okay, I can't get borrow on KWT. Let's go. Let me look at some proxies. And if you had it written down in your notes that he was going to look for XOP, you could have made that decision for yourself to go short XOP. And if you'd done so and you followed literally followed, from end to end in terms of when he put on Kuwait and then covered it down here, the buy signal was down here. right? So you could have done, you could have reaped about a 2% return on XOP in that time frame, and you could be, again, it's on ETF Pro. You can come in this morning and come back and kind of reshorting it right at a very similar level. I'm not saying this, again, not advice, and we haven't gotten an RTA to short XOP, but again, this is you can kind of combine these pieces of the process where, in order to come and formulate where Keith is hunting, where Keith likes this, where Keith sees signals that are weakening, or where things are at the top end of the risk ranges, and he wants to go put these on and express them in the portfolio. So yeah, just wanted to kind of really reiterate that borrow on XOP should be pretty easy to get. And again, a good expression of oil demand declining here in a Quad 4 environment.